Hey you! I know, it's just 1 week until Christmas, right? So everybody's trying to make as many Christmas cards as possible, and we're all in a hurry, and let's face it, a little bit panicky, right? I know. So I was trying to make a lot of cards this year, so I wanted to share with you 5 easy cards that you can just make. Just draw them yourself. You don't need to have the fancy stamps of gnomes because gnomes are very easy to make. And they're gonna be very cozy. It's going to have really nice dramatic lighting in there, and it's going to be very easily to reproduce. I usually make this in a large batch so I can send everyone I love these cards. So stay tuned, watch the video, and thank you for being here. So let's just talk about what just happened here. I drew several gnomes on a taped watercolor paper on my board, and the gnomes are very easy to do because they only have basically 3 shapes. There's the head, which is kind of a triangle with a bottom that is rounded, so that's super easy. There's the head, which is fairly round, so it's a round head. It's a round nose, so everything is rounded, and the nose is much bigger on the face than everything else, so that's like proportion wise you don't have to worry about making a perfect nose because it's just a rounded one. I drew the eyes closed, so there's like looks like they're looking downwards, so it's just 2 lines, so very simple, right? And the body is pretty I'm not gonna say square, but it just starts, there's no neck involved, there's nothing, it's just a few lines downwards. The hands are in the front and they're very easy, they're just some lines, just making sure that the elbows are a little bit out of the body, that's all. So I do not believe that these gnomes are very hard to draw. I did on all of them pretty different things. Like on the male gnomes, I tried to do a very funny mustache. So, but again, those are very simple lines. It should not be very difficult to create. And the differences with the female gnomes is the hair. So I did kind of on this picture, it's kind of a Leia, Princess Leia kind of hairdo, which is just some bowl-shaped forms for the hair. That's it. So like everything is just either circles or triangles or rectangles. That's, you don't have to spend that much time on it. Now onto the coloring. What I'm doing here is, because it needs to dry in between, I'm doing some coloring first. I'm doing the background, and the background needs to be very cozy but also very dramatic. And the way I achieved that is I had a kind of a teal color, which I'm going to do as the base for the sky, and then I'm going to go in with really dark indigo blue on the margins while the previous layer is still wet. This will allow it to blend very nicely and will create some nice blended effects. And then the fact that I'm doing on the outside rim kind of a frame of this darker color, it pushes your eye into kind of tunnel vision, so it makes the whole picture very, very cozy. So you're just gonna have to let this dry and then add your snowflakes in it, and that's kind of it. So use 2 colors. It doesn't necessarily have to be blue and indigo, it can be any other color for the background. I've seen a lot of other non-conventional YouTube videos lately where they use pinks and yellows as the background. It's okay as long as you want to give the impression of coziness. So you should have a lighter color and a darker color that mix into each other and that create this coziness. Okay, so I used I think my number 6 brush. This is a round brush because it holds a lot of water. Now this one I actually did in a previous live stream, the drawing for this and the initial layer, and I had a different color in mind. The beauty of watercolors is that you can layer colors on top of each other, and it still looks okay because they're very transparent. So I just did that. I didn't really felt a connection on that particular day with the initial color. So my live stream was about a week ago, and I tried to do this during a live stream. However, I do have a chronic illness, and sometimes I have nosebleeds. It happens without me knowing, or sometimes I just notice when I look down. So it's not something I can control. It might happen in the future as well, in future live streams. I just wanted to let everybody know it's nothing to worry about. There's nothing I can do about it, and it is just the what it is like to live with a chronic disease, right? I don't want that one to actually dictate the things that I do or my dreams. I am working around it, and I'm not going to be bothered by it. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing just because I have a chronic disease, and I'm not going to stop what I love just because of that. So I just wanted to put it out there so we talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, now after it's dry, and actually I didn't have to dry it with a heat tool or anything, it just air dried, and it made some really interesting texture on the actual finished background on some of them. It had a little bit of blooming, and I really enjoyed that. I took a white gel pen. This is a Sakura jelly. It's not a jelly roll, but it's the Uniball Signal roll, and I'm making like really big and bold snowflakes. And I started differently, and by the end I was getting quite good at making the snowflakes. So I kind of optimized along the way. I was doing the big ones first, and then I was going just with the tapping motion and doing the small ones. You can clearly see here especially on the male gnome side, the texture that you get when you bleed colors into each other. And this is what I was actually going for. This is really nice for a background. I don't like really flat backgrounds, and if you want to get a flat background, I would suggest that you, instead of using cold press watercolor, you would use hot press watercolor, and then you can get really nice washes, lesser blooming and all of that stuff. I prefer to have texture in my cards. So you notice that I only am doing the background. I'm not gonna color in that white part that is around the gnome down. That I'm going to leave white. It creates a nice contrast. It kind of shows that it's kind of snow in the background, and I just thought that the contrast is so nice that it makes no sense for me to do this. You can see here I even optimized further. I first did the big round, and then I went tapping with my pencil down just one time to do the small snowflakes. So now don't ask me why you would still see the Christmas star when it's snowing, but I'm just assuming it's a miracle and you can still see the Christmas star. So I'm going to choose just basically 3 color combinations. I mean 3 colors. It's gonna be red, green, and yellow, and I'm going to change them according to what I like, the set that I'm doing. For this first set, I'm using red for the hats for both the female gnome and the male gnome, and it's always good to just keep it to a very limited color palette. Makes no sense to like always reinvent the wheel, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use red and the same color I'm using on the hat, I'm going to use on the ornament in their hands, right? So this is going to create a contrast. And I'm just making the hat. I'm adding more darker color. I think that was Rose Deep, which is the darker color, and leaving the middle of the hat lighter, and that will create depth. And then I'm just using the same color for the ornament. And this makes things cohesive and, you know, a little bit nicer. I really enjoy coloring this in because, you know, you can go and you can make the next one on the line, leave that one to dry, and then it becomes very efficient. Now the second color I'm going to use for the hat is going to be a green, and I believe this is like an olive green that I chose, and then I'm going to go with a jaded from Daniel Smith. This is my darker color, and again I'm going to leave the middle lighter and the front much darker, the sides much darker. This gives it a kind of a 3D effect. You don't have to go all the way for these ones. These are just cards, and they're not like finished artworks that needs to be perfect. The important thing is you're spending the time to make something for your friends and family. Now the third color that I'm going to choose for both the hats and the ornament is yellow, and then I'm going to alternate for the other parts of the body, like the clothing, with one of the other colors, right? So if I'm going to make the hat yellow, then I'm going to choose between red or green for the clothing, and then the third color I'm going to use for the gloves. So this is how I keep the same colors all over the place. Okay, now everything has dried out, so I am choosing for this one green for the clothing, and I'm going to do both of them the same. The only thing that I want to point out when I was doing the coloring is I let a little bit of a white border in between where the hand touches the clothing, so that gives it a bit of a, it makes the hand stand out, because otherwise it will get lost. The black outline is not going to stand against this very dark color, so leave a small white there where the hands touch the body, and it will really make it stand out. I am adding more color there to deepen the shadows and make it even more dramatic. I like these dramatic looks, and it's kind of dramatic and cozy in the same time. And I'm doing the same for the girl gnome. To be honest, it's not really all that complicated what I'm doing here. It's not hard shadows or anything. I'm using this time a black velvet silver brush, and this is I think a number 2. It helps me get much control because it has a very pointed tip, and with that pointed tip I can actually go in and ensure that I have paint everywhere, and I can go around. This is some areas are more intricate and you have to go around. So for this green I chose the yellow, and this is really nice. This is where I actually forgot to use the green for the ornament, but I will do that at the end, right? For the yellow, to deepen the color, I think I used a darker shade of orange at the end, and that kind of deepens the color, makes it look like the light comes from the Christmas globe or from within, and then the rest of the body is in the shadow. Pretty funny. I'm gonna leave the faces at the end, and for example the mustache and the hair. I just want to deal, so the idea is you do the big things first and then you deal with the other things. Now my cat has woken up from his sleep. He usually sleeps when I'm filming, but now he did woke up, and he decided he wanted to be part of the action, and he likes to sit with me while I draw, which is really nice. For these ones I'm using red, and then I'm deepening the red just the same way as I did on the hat. It gives it like really nice depth and 3D effect, right? That's it. So it's pretty simple shading. I'm not using 3 colors or anything. I'm just going to use this one. This is where you can see that the pointed tip, it really helps, because I was able to go around that mustache and actually make some things, make some really intricate color differentiation there. So now what I do notice is sometimes certain colors are stronger than others, and certain colors do not make like sense, as in you can't get such a big differentiation. Red is one of them, but it's okay. We will leave it that. Now my cat is really interested in what I'm doing. He's always trying to either steal my paints, drink from the watercolor water. I don't know why he does that. He really likes the water in my bucket, not the water that is clean outside. It's just the water in my bucket. So for the hair, I'm using gray. And let's be very clear, I'm using gray because the gnomes usually have gray hair. They don't have very fancy other things. So I'm using Davis gray and some Payne's gray. And the Payne's gray is the darker version of the gray, and the Davis gray is the lighter version of the gray. So I'm using two types of gray for this. And now I decided I want to add texture, and I want to add texture in the hats because everything looks very flat, and I'm going to add texture not only at the hats, but I'm going to add texture also in the clothing itself. And the way I do this is, now he's playing with my with my stuff. I always have fun after I watch this. This is where I actually wanted to do kind of a knitted texture on the clothing. It didn't really work out. I'm going to stick to lines on the other sweaters, but I still love it. I'm still going to send this card, right? I mean, this is how I also experiment, and this is how it gets the feeling that it's a handmade card, right? So adding texture at the end is very important, and you can do that by adding lines or adding any other things. Now I'm painting the face. Usually gnomes' faces are very orangey and with lots of red in it. Because they live in kind of places where it's cold always, so always your nose gets cold. So I put a layer of jaune brilliant first, then I'm adding orange for the face, and then I'm going in with quinacridone rose for the nose and for the cheeks. So this is how we make this. I also try not to forget that the star needs to be there, yellow, and petting my cat in the meantime. He is, at least on this painting, he's not trying to steal my brush. Like in other paintings, he very often tries to steal my brush. It's just not very nice. But this time he was just more interested in the decorations on my table and what I was doing. So he's a sweetie. Okay. What I did here is I forgotten to do the Christmas globes, and since I was supposed to anyway add texture, and by the way, texture I add with the same darker color that I was using to darken the sides. And now I'm switching also with texture, and I'm just doing some lines on the clothing. It looks like a pattern, and this really makes everything pop, right? I'm going to do the hair the same as I did all the other gnomes, nothing different. It's just adding gray, two types of gray, and also for the mustache and everything. And it makes every card cohesive and kind of the same. By the way, I did a mistake in the beginning of the video when I said I made 5 cards. Actually, there were 6 cards that I made, not 5. I don't know why I thought it was 5. But they were actually 6 cards, and this is the beauty of doing them all at once, and you can send them. I do not know necessarily if I'm going to send them right now for Christmas. Why? Because I don't want to put more pressure onto the post office. To be honest, post office pretty much, because of a lockdown, has trouble delivering, so I don't want to make it even more troublesome for them. So, you know, my loved ones are going to receive this, but are probably going to receive this a little bit later on. It's okay. They can see this and they can imagine that they will receive these really cool paintings. Now onto the last gnomes. I am first doing the hair here, and then I am mixing up some colors so that I don't have to worry about going directly into the pan. My cat is also sometimes in there trying to taste how watercolor tastes, and I'm always afraid that he's going to get poisoned, because some of the watercolors, to be honest, have really dangerous minerals inside. It depends on the color that they're trying to do. So especially stuff that have chrome in it, that can be quite dangerous. So yeah, I'm really trying to keep an eye on him so that he doesn't get into trouble later on. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm adding the texture onto the gnome hats, and I'm not doing the lines all in one direction. I'm trying to vary it, because this is how you give that 3D effect. Okay, so remember that 3D effect, don't make it perfectly aligned, but try to do things that are a little bit out of sync with each other. So as always, for the gloves I'm using the third color, which was green in this instance, because the hat is orange, the clothing red, then the gloves needs to be green. So I'm reusing the same colors as I used before, and I'm trying to make everything work together. Now, what I did notice here is, even though it's a number 2 brush, it holds quite a lot of water. So whenever I was dropping the red, it was like a lot of color that I had. So trying to finalize everything in this side. I am going to deepen the cheeks and the nose redness on all of them, and trying to fix any other inconsistencies I have. But it is basically kind of what it is. Now, I am not very good at writing, so my sentiments are from different sets, and I decided to put sentiments inside the hat because that's the only more darker color that I have. And the first one is, I'm using this Joy from a Lawn Fawn set, and I'm going to use the Simon Says Stamp pigment white ink, and this is a super bright white. And by the way, I did a mistake later on. I wasn't very careful and I kind of smeared it, but please be careful, and maybe dry it out with your heat gun if you're using, like, it is a really nice pigment ink. It really makes really crisp images. However, you should be very careful. This was from the set from Simon Says Stamp, not from Lawn Fawn, and it had this Oh Holy Night. I was trying to look for Christmas messages that can fit inside the hat, so that's why those two are there. And now this was also from the Simon Says Stamp set, and was saying Noel, so that looks nice. Now I'm going to get the cards out and trim them a little bit. So I have some base cards that are already made. Notice here how I take the cards out. You have to peel very carefully all of the masking tape so that you don't create problems and rip your paper. And I usually use it at peel it at an angle, and making sure that I don't rip the paper really. Now I'm realizing that I didn't paint the stars here, so I'm like trying to fix things as I go along. This is how, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm watching it again and I realize that it still needs something. By the way, these cards really look nice on their own like this. It really looks like a Polaroid card, right? And I was like, should I not? I was debating with myself while getting all of them if I actually should be cutting them. But in the end I decided to cut. My cat decided to come with me and to sit very close to the cutter. I have a Tim Holtz cutter, and actually the reason why it took 1.5 hours was that I didn't have anything prepared next to me. So I constantly had to go like, oh, where's my cutter again? Where did I put it? Where's my stamping block? So this is actually what took the longest in this video. So this is my Tim Holtz cutter, and I'm just going to go and cut the margins, and in the end this is where I kind of smeared a little bit the joy. In the end, it's going to be 5 inches tall by 3 3¾ so I'm going to have a nice border all around on my base card, which is 5½ by 4¼ and that is just perfectly, because I always like, this is where I realize I should have heat set all of the pigmenting. Pigmenting is very pigmented, let's put it this way. So now, after I'm going to cut all of this, I am going to make sure that I grab my very strong adhesive, and I'm going to adhere them all onto a base card. And the reason why it needs a very strong adhesive is these are watercolor papers, 300 GSM, and they tend to curl up, especially when you dry them a little bit more. So I'm just adhering them, and these are going to be my cards. So now I'm realizing that actually my very strong adhesive finished, so I had to pick up another one, also permanent adhesive, also very strong. Luckily I still have quite a few crafting supplies. Hello, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope you're just going along with it and going to make your own cards very similar to this. I consider them something that I am gifting to my friends and my family, and that I spent time on making, but it wasn't all that much, right? You saw that it's quite easy to do. Gnomes, as usual, only have like 3 little pieces that you need to think of, and you can use any colors that you want. So this is what makes this type of cards fun and easy to make. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you do, don't forget to smash that like button, right? And also subscribe, because there's gonna be new content, improved content into the new year. Please join me, and let's make the new year the most awesome year in existence. Thank you.